Andrew Holmes'un kurs liderliğinde bir stüdyo alıyorum. ODTÜ mimarlık mezunuyum bu arada. Yaklaşık 3 yıl Emre Aralat Mimarlık'ta çalıştım İstanbul'da ve şu an Oxford'dayım. Sorular olursa cevaplayabilirim. Daha da uzatmayayım isterseniz.
They asked, how did you win the Chepnin Burs?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a long process, and also more than 60,000 people applied this scholarship program, and just 1,500 people that received the scholarship from the British government. Actually, the process is composed of some interviews with the British embassy in Istanbul and Ankara. And also they ask some questions about networking and also leadership and your career, future career plans about you. Actually, I asked some questions and I asked some essays for the tuning, and then I went to an interview with the embassy and they chose me. Yeah, actually, it's not too complicated. You can do it, yeah.
Thank you, I hope so.
And can you tell us, Olucan, just about like why you decided to come to Oxford Brookes, like out of all the programs you applied to?
Actually, I was telling the same thing to Joel, because Joel is one of my teachers at this program module. Actually, the program is very experimental.
Anlatabilirsiniz isterseniz aslında. Peki. You can say it in Turkish as well, actually, if you don't mind. Yeah. Just for now, while we...
Okay, I will continue in English, Turkish. Program burada çok deneysel aslında. Programda burada Andrew Holmes stüdyoyu alıyorum ve web sitesinden inceleyebilirsiniz. Burada bir yapı tasarlamıyoruz aslında. Şu an ekran paylaşılıyor galiba. Görüyor olabilirsiniz yapılan işleri. Bir taraftan çok fotoğrafçılık ve kısa film, video editing özelinde de ilerliyor. Bunlarla da uğraşıyor. Yaptığımız işler fazlasıyla soyut. Sizin mimarlık alanında dertlendiğiniz konularla alakalı çeşitli işler, projeler yapmanız bekleniyor. Hani bir önceki fotoğraf benim çektiğim fotoğraftı. Hem freehand drawing yapıyoruz, hem bilgisayar programı kullanıyoruz. Brookes'un çok büyük bir kütüphanesi ve büyük bir architecture workshop'u var. Orada hani laser cutting'den 3D printing'e çok çeşitli alanlarda da yine somut işler de üretiyoruz bir taraftan. Ve her çarşamba full stüdyo günümüz var. Orada öğrencilere fazla aslında mimari tartışmalar yapıyoruz. O anlamda çok keyif aldığım bir program olduğunu söyleyebilirim. Bir taraftan bol bol okuma yapmamız da bekleniyor. Yani işin kontekstine de aslında uydurmamız gerekiyor. Yani keyfi de ilerlemiyor çünkü bir master mimarlık programı bildiğiniz gibi. Kısaca söyleyeceklerim bu kadar. Özellikle hani işin visual kısmına, görsel kısmına da ilgiliyseniz ve video ile fotoğrafla da ilgiliyseniz fazlasıyla tavsiye ederim. Zaten Andrew Holmes müthiş bir insan. Yaptığı işleri internetten takip edebilirsiniz. Ve her konuşması ışık yapıyor aslında öğrenciler. O anlamda çok keyifli ve doyurucu bir program olduğunu ifade edebilirim. Do you have some questions? Or are you here? Are you there?
You guys have gone very quiet.
Oraya gittiğinizde ne gibi problemlerle karşılaştınız? Yani bir mimarlık öğrencisi oraya master için geldiğinde nasıl problemler yaşayabilir? Diyebilirim.
She's asking some problems as an architecture student here. Aslında, actually, I didn't face any problems here.
Well, I guess the question might be, or I don't know, is how different might it be to what you were used to? Is from your undergraduate, how is either the course that you're doing now or the style of education that Brookes has? How might be that different? What have you found different, or what's more challenging within your course?
Yeah, actually, I graduated from Middle East Technical University. You know this school, of course. Actually, the design approach, architectural approach is completely different than Matthew here. So, for example, in Matthew, when I was designing a building, when I was designing a project, the brief was always clear. So it was like that. You should design and blah blah. But in here, brief is not clear. It's up to you. Actually, you will design anything. All the teachers, all the people, all the staff are very open-minded, and if you focus on, for example, Gothic architecture, or if you focus on how can I say chronophotography, you can do it. So it's very open. It has a very wide range of how can I say approach in this program. So it could be kind of problematic. But actually, I didn't perceive it as a problem in this program.
And within Brookes, in the postgrad for the MHD, it's quite a unique setup to how a lot of other universities operate in terms of the unit system. Generally, other universities will have the postgraduates as the part 2. For the 2 years, you will generally be in a unit setup, which you might be or may not be used to, and that unit will have an agenda. Whereas at Brookes, for your part 2 course, if that's what you're looking at, you can choose a specialization. So in the first year, you can specialize in disaster for emergency practice or something else, or AAD, which is what Jean's part of as well. And then in the second year, you can be more parts of a traditional unit structure, so that in the first year you get a lot more freedom or a path that you are interested to pursue, and then in the second year of part 2 you are able to apply that to a more traditional design thinking. Then also we offer different master's courses, 1 year masters, so that is made up of a design period over semester 1 and semester 2, and then also over the summer you'll have a dissertation. And what we do in AAD, sort of the masters in architecture, so Andrew's unit and the unit that Jean is part of, we mix the part 2s together and the direct entry masters. That's so that we try to expose our students to the international range of students that we get, and also vice versa, so that then our international students who are on the 1 year masters, they get exposed to the more traditional sense of the part 2 of how you might become an architecture student. And as Shan says, is within the postgraduate courses of Oxford Brookes within architecture, there is a range, quite a vast range of different disciplines that you can look into and explore. And then, as I said, with the part 2 courses, you're able to sort of further your architecture career that way. What about scholarship opportunities? Well, I think that's not my expertise, but I know within Brookes there is a range of different scholarships which are for either individual students in terms of the university and alumni offering those scholarships, but then there are also more specific scholarships which I think are offered. I think there's sort of scholarships for Welsh students, for Hungarian students, for different types of students from different backgrounds that are offered for the university, and then also things like the Chevening Scholarship you're able to look into. And so in terms of either scholarships or funding, Brookes is very open to get as many quality students as they can in, regardless of either background or funding issues. So in terms of those, the best thing to do is what we can do as well is probably get a list of a lot of these questions and then can answer them more directly with information, because I guess a lot of everyone who's in the room is sort of wondering how you're able to fund your time here.
Yeah, can I just add to that as well? We have the John Henry Brookes Scholarship for postgraduate students. So that ranges from about £1,000 to £2,000, and each faculty, each department is able to award that to selected students. So that's always something on offer every year to postgraduate students, and you can get more details about that on our website. On the scholarships, funding for overseas students, so that there's more information about that. Does anyone have any questions about anything so far?
I think, Olucan, if you want to talk about your experience you had with preparing your portfolio for applying to the school, I think someone might have asked about that.
Yeah, if you can talk about the portfolio, some kind of guidance for the students. I think that's would be really helpful to them, if that's okay.
And you can again speak in Turkish if you want.
Yeah, maybe a bit like English and Turkish would be really helpful.
Just because the audio I think is not the best, so it'll be better for everybody's understanding, I guess.
Okay. Actually, in my portfolio, I put many school projects from Matthew, Middle East Technical University, and also I always follow some both national and international architectural design competitions, and I put some projects, competition projects. And also, if you are interested in architectural photography or maybe making collars or some graphic design works, actually it can be very useful to put them in my portfolio. And also I have worked in Emre Arolat Architecture Istanbul office more than 2 years, and again I put some projects from the office. But again, AAD and Advanced Architectural Design module is open to very open-minded people who are interested in some experimental projects. So you can do, or you can put anything that you are interested in to your portfolio. I think it's good advice. Because I think that shouldn't be a very specific rule about the portfolio.
No, I agree,
yeah.
and especially with our unit and how we teach is that we don't teach dogmatically. What we try to do is draw out of the students their individuality, their style, the things they're interested in, and then use those things as ingredients to ultimately make them a better designer, and make them a better architect, make them a better thinker, and to be more aware of themselves rather than necessarily becoming a product of a conventional way. What we try to do is challenge the convention, but challenge the convention as individuals who are informed, who are intelligent architects or intelligent designers, so that then they're able to look at the world around them, take their view on it, and then produce something which is able to be an intellectual comment on what they see around them, which is exactly what Shan says, is that the more individual your portfolio in terms of what you're interested in, the images you've made are a much better way of describing yourself, rather than necessarily having lots of text or lots of things which you feel are necessary. I think generally there is kind of a baseline of what is provided, but it's that individuality that generally stands out. And at postgraduate level, there is an expectation of being somewhat either computer literate in terms of design, so either through CAD programs or 3D software, as well as model making or producing quality images, quality photos. So the stronger your work shows a stronger self and a stronger discipline towards your design and chosen career.
Someone asked, how many pages or projects are expected?
This is an interesting question. It's almost in the way I can think of the pages is asking how many pages is kind of saying how many birthdays we can have. It's like we don't know. It's appropriate. It should be a refinement is the best way. A heavy portfolio is not often a good portfolio. You can say a lot more in one image, in one extraordinary image, than you could 100 average images, which is also what we try to do on our courses. You can see in the photos that we were showing is there's a lot of emphasis on producing an image rather than necessarily just taking pictures. Everyone is able to take pictures now with the thing in their pocket, but that doesn't mean they can make an image. And an image is something which conveys information. And that image can be a plan or a section, but it also can be a photograph or a still from a film. So I wouldn't give yourself a number in terms of that, because you might sort of, if you have 50 pages, you might look at those pages and say, which are my favorite 25, if you could only put 25 in, or if you only had 10 pages, which one would I pick? Or it's the same as if you're picking photos. If you have to choose from a range of 10, you might sort of say, well, actually, that one's not as strong, that one's not as strong. Because ultimately, what we want to see is a distillation and a refinement of the best things that you can do. And the same with the projects is what you feel is most powerful in conveying yourself, rather than necessarily in the convention of what is thought to be expected. And then also with the different masters and different approaches, there is that opportunity to either email the university or email the tutors, because they're generally linked to those things. So it's being able to give your strongest self.
And also your future lecturers, your future teachers do not know you, so you should introduce yourself with your portfolio. That's why you should choose the best ones. Maybe it's better.
Yes, and as architects, we are visually trained. So the image will, or should say, more than text. So always try to, if you imagine more yourself as an artist will make a sculpture or make a drawing, but they don't spend the next 300 words explaining themselves. If it's a good piece of work, it should stand on itself with a title and a name.
Would you guys want to talk a little bit more just about also the university in general and like where it's found and like the atmosphere of Oxford, I guess, if you want to? Just for
and where I didn't hear that first bit. And where it's
About the city.
but yeah, well, Oxford is a wonderful city. It's it has almost the second oldest university in the world. Well, at least in the Western world, only just behind Bologna, I believe. So it has a huge history in academia, and in terms of the actual visual nature of the city, you can almost have an architectural history lesson just by walking around the city. It has around 150,000 inhabitants. There is a large proportion of students, so it's a very transient city, because we obviously have Oxford University, which is a huge intake of students and staff, and then also Oxford Brookes is a very large university with, once again, with a lot of staff and students. It's usefully an hour and a half from London, so its connection is very good. Its transport links are very good. It's a very multicultural city, which I know from my girlfriend is from Italy, and she's moved here, and she was scared about being understood or the language barrier. in Oxford, everyone is used to non-English speaking people, so your language within a city like Oxford is less of a barrier than you might think, because everyone is very open and aware of the nature of language and its difficulties, especially if it's not your first language. But Brookes, as a university, is very diverse, it's very multicultural, it accepts more or less anyone and everyone in a positive way. It has a very good sort of sport ethics. We are generally a bit better than Oxford University in terms of rowing, in terms of medals. And we're always forward thinking as well and trying to improve. Is that our facilities are always improving, either on a small scale or on a large scale. There are plans to have a new building made just across the road, which will be a combination of the workshops for engineering, for art and architecture, so that we start to manifest a cross-discipline physical making ethos, so that our architecture students are exposed to engineers or exposed to artists and the different methods that they use. So as a university from a high level, we try to develop and improve on what we've got. I don't think we're a university that rests on our laurels. We always look at ourselves critically, rather than thinking, well, we're doing okay, we'll stay there. We always think, actually, no, where can we improve? Where can we do better? And the same on that with our unit is we always look at what we could improve on, where we didn't do so well, because we do produce some extraordinary work, but that doesn't mean that we can rest or relax. So we always look to try and improve things or change things a bit. Last year we had a submission of films that was held in a local cinema, so every master's student showed their films in an actual cinema. The year before we worked with St John's University and had the exhibition there. So we try to expose ourselves to the wider community as much as we can, and so that we're not as much as we are physically on a hill, we don't try to sort of remain there. We expand ourselves as much as we can.
Excellent. And could you guys talk? I see Alif has a question just about the structure of the Master in Architecture and like what sort of courses you take and how students are evaluated. Like it's a project based or and Olucan, you as well. Like just your experience so far and with the program. You would like to talk about that a bit.
Well, I can, as a brief overview, it might be easy. We can do a brief overview and then Shane can talk. Within the Masters, it's a modular-based course, so you have different modules. The greatest weighting will be on your design, and then you have other modules that support that Masters. And so with AAD, we have the main design module, which runs over 2 semesters, and then within each semester there is another module, urban cultures, which improves technique, and then architecture in the city, which then uses those techniques to create a film and design. And then over the summer we have a dissertation, and then also on the postgraduate diploma or the master's part 2, that's very much the same, as that it's modular based course. So you have modules which will be assessed through submission, and also with the design courses, there is a continual assessment with a submission at the end. So we view the student kind of holistically in terms of the design assessment, is that if we know they're doing good work, and then whatever reason in the submission they've really struggled, then we can see that as a whole term, rather than necessarily just taking it at that point. And then obviously it depends on the students, but we try to take the student as an individual rather than necessarily be kind of hard and fast in terms of sort of testing that way. I'm sure you...
Mm-hmm. Actually, Joel told everything about the program, but Yes, I'm taking.
Would you like to say it in Turkish, possibly, just in case anybody didn't understand, or just in general, like how it is being a student in architecture in the UK compared to back in Turkey, maybe also?
Okay, in Turkish you want, right?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Okay. Öncelikle Türkiye'den örnek verebileceğim hani programın içeriğini benzeştirdiğim bir program yok. Türkiye'deki programlar bilgiyi düşünüyorum, ODTÜ'yü, İTÜ'yü düşünüyorum. Ya tamamen mimari odaklı yani yapısal bazlı bir sizden araştırma projenizle beraber bir iş bekliyorlar. Yine dertlendiğiniz bir konuyla alakalı ya da tamamen tez üzerine dayanıyor. Yani ODTÜ'deki örneğin MH programı o şekilde. Fakat Oxford Brookes'un mimarlık programı farklı bir noktada duruyor. Bir taraftan dissertation project'i götürüyoruz. Yani bir araştırma yapıyoruz. Bir taraftan da bir proje tasarlıyoruz. Fakat örneğin ilk assignment'larımızdan biri şeydi, doğadan bitki toplamaktı. Ve böcek toplamaktı mesela. Ve biz onları aldık, soyut bir biçimde işledik. Ve yine herkesin kendi araştırma konusu bünyesinde soyut ürünlere dönüştürdük. Bunu yaparken bir taraftan 3 boyutlu modelleme de yapıyoruz. Bir taraftan tamamen el çizimi işler de yapıyoruz. Zaten architecture workshop'u kullanmamız zorunlu gibi bir durum ve betondan MDF'e, ahşapa kadar veya 3 boyutlu yazıcılara kadar büyük bir workshop var ve her şeyi deneyebiliyorsunuz. Ve aslında şeyi gözlemlemek iyi bir şey. Bir taraftan kafanızda dertlendiğiniz bir konu var. Bir taraftan onu teorik bir biçimde işliyorsunuz, götürüyorsunuz. Bir taraftan da onu görselleştirmekle uğraşıyorsunuz. Yani mekan bazında değil belki. Fakat somut biçimde bir ürün ortaya çıkartıyorsunuz. Onun için araştırma ve tartışma seviyesi farklı bir noktada duruyor. Zaten Andrew Holmes da bir mimar fakat geçmişe baktığınız zaman işin birazcık daha sanatsal kısmına kaymış. Onun için de bütün o tartışmalar çok mimarlık eğitiminden sonra, lisans eğitiminden, hele ki piyasada çalıştınız mı bilmiyorum. 3 yıl boyunca piyasada çalıştıktan sonra böyle bir daha soyut bir programın içine gelmek bende şey yaptı. Fazlasıyla ışık yaktı aslında. Bunu söyleyebilirim. Yani çok bir standart, klişe bir mimarlık programı yok. Birazcık da klişe olacak belki ama hani ayna gibi siz ne kadar dertleniyorsanız bir kendi professionınızla alakalı onu aslında bölüm onunla alakalı size kaynakları açıyor. Ne kadar derine inmek istiyorsanız zaten buradaki bütün akademik kadro buna açık. Çok daha basit işler yapıp iş üreten de var. Çok daha derine inen de var. Bu anlamda güzel. Oxford'da zaten öğrenci olmak çok güzel. Küçük bir Harry Potter seti gibi yani. Yani doğayı ve tarihi aynı anda hissedebiliyorsunuz. O anlamda söyleyebileceklerim bu kadar. Spesifik bir soru varsa konuşabiliriz isterseniz.
That question might be for you, again.
Sorry?
Well, John, can you talk a little bit about like your niyet mektubu, your personal statement, like
My personal what?
personal statement for your application to the school? Like what sort of things did you talk about in it, etc.?
Actually, I organized just a portfolio and a statement. Letter of intention. Just 2 of them.
Yeah, so I think your letter of intention is probably the useful thing. What kind of things might you have written about? If it's easier in Turkish, you can go for Turkish.
Okay. I'm trying to share my ideas. Yeah, I remember. Actually,
so long ago.
In my letter, I wrote just my background because I joined many international architectural competitions. I won some prizes, some of them, and also I'm interested in architectural photography. and also I worked as a freelance photographer during my architectural education at METU in Ankara. I wrote my background, my interests, and my future plans. And I was talking about some movies because, again, I attended some short movie festivals in Vancouver, in Istanbul, and again, I won some prizes from some festivals too. Actually, again, I think the logic behind writing a letter is very similar to preparing a portfolio, because the lecturers do not know me, and I need to introduce myself. That's why I wrote many things related to my profession, related to my capabilities, maybe. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, no, and don't be put off writing a personal statement if you don't have the same sort of background that Shan has in terms of his exposure to photography or competitions. What it's really about is using the things that you're interested in to give us something of yourself, rather than just being like, I want to do this because of this, this, and this. We get a much better idea of you as a person when we know what you're interested in, or what you might do in your free time, or the things that you do to enhance your design, or the photography you might do, or the films you might see. If there's one film which you think is the most amazing film you've ever seen, then you can write about that and say why you think that, rather than saying it's just nice. You might say, well, actually the photography is extraordinary. The cinematographer is one of my favourite cinematographers because they did this, and this film. Or the same with architecture. It's about getting a sense of you as a person in terms of your personal statement. So take the words of personal statement as something very kind of specific, that is a statement of yourself.
I think someone asked a question. What previous one? No, not that one.
What if I've not decided yet?
Yeah, did you mention what topic? Actually, I mentioned about creating emotional spaces, like Peter Zumthor. He is one of my favorite architects. And I think architecture has a deep connection, very deep relation to psychology and feelings. And also cinema, and also making movies has some common parts with architecture again. Yeah, I was talking about these kind of issues during the application.
Also, Olcan, when you first joined the program, like, did you already have like an idea of what you wanted to like do afterwards, or like, I think Elif might have asked a question regarding this, like, or can you kind of just like pick which modules you want to take and like kind of like customize your course like that?
Actually, I didn't expect such an experimental program. Yes, I read many information on the Oxford Brookes webpage and also Andrew Holmes' studio webpage. But after I started to study here, actually, it was a challenging process for me. Yeah.
And so, sorry, just to pick up on a question that's there, but how would you pronounce that, Uja?
Sorry.
How do you pronounce this?
Ozge.
Ozge has asked about they're organising a portfolio for the application to the master's programme. I'm a city planner. I don't know if this is for the for the MArch AAD, which Shan's on, but generally, obviously you can't change your background in terms of what you have. But on our course, this year we have students who were previously estate managers. These are a student from Thailand. Previously, we've had publishers. We've also had a whole range of different backgrounds, which is why we look at the portfolio as an individual to see if, obviously, you're wanting to further your education. You're not doing this just as something generally. Obviously, it's fun, but it's a discipline you want to continue in. So it's once again, it's going about it in a way which shows yourself and your motivation to do the course. So also in terms of what kind of studies can I add, it goes back to kind of what Shan was saying in terms of the sort of works as a photographer, so other things that you might have done which are of visual nature, or things that you might have recorded music or made short films. So all these kind of things which are about our environment or our space or how we perceive things or atmospheres, things that you might not think are related to architecture, we generally find from our view and experience are closer related than you might think. So all these aspects of yourself or your interests are always very useful to add in with the portfolio.
Again, one more portfolio question.
Yeah, I think so.
Portfolyonu tasarlarken biraz önce bahsettiğim gibi aslında hem piyasada yaptığım profesyonel işleri Aralat dışında bir Muğla Büyükşehir Belediyesi'nde çalıştım. Orada TAK ve Kentsel Strateji Bünyesinde Atölye Muğla 1'in mimarıydım. Onun gibi profesyonel işleri de koydum. Fakat şunu da söyleyeyim. Oxford Brookes'la beraber başvurduğum 2 okul daha vardı. Diğerlerinden de kabul geldi ve şey değil, profesyonel bir iş koymanıza gerek yok veya bir film geçmişiniz, fotoğraf geçmişiniz olmasına tabii ki gerek yok. Yarışma da yapmamış olabilirsiniz. Çünkü bir sürü insan burada kabul olan insanın bir şeyi yok. Böyle bir geçmişi yok veya hiç yarışmaya katılmamış örneğin veya hiç render almamış. Ama herkesin kendine ait bir gustosu olduğunu söyleyebilirim. Bu da önemli bir şey. Portfolyoda onun için ben neyi iyi yapabiliyorsam onu karşı tarafa göstermeye çalıştım. Okul projelerimi koydum. ODTÜ'de yaptığım 3. ve 4. yıl projelerimi koydum. Bir ara grafik tasarımla ilgilendim. Yaptığım çeşitli grafik çalışmaları, poster çalışmaları, kolajları koydum. Mimari fotoğraflar yer alıyordu. Çektiğim kısa filmlerin işte sinopsisleriyle, abstraktleriyle onlardan çeşitli işler koydum, kesitler koydum. Ya genel olarak profesyonel işler, yarışma projeleri ve okul projeleri olarak 3 parça ayırabilirim portfolyomu. Yaklaşık 60 sayfaydı, 13 proje ekledim bu arada. Fakat sadece 4 proje koyan arkadaşlarımı da biliyorum ve yine bir sürü yerden kabul alan arkadaşlarım İngiltere'de. Onun için çok...
Merhaba. Projelerde Türkçe açıklamaları çok uzun yazdınız mı? Yani portfolyoda uzun açıklamalar. Yani nasıl anlattınız? Ya mesela projeyi anlatırken nasıl anlattınız? Özellikle konsept nasıl? Uzun portfolyoda.
Just. Can you guys hear us, by the way? Oh.
İnternet farklı da.
Sıkıntılı oldu bir saniye. Ya niye böyle yapıyor? Yeah. I think just as you were saying that, the internet stopped. I just need to connect it again real quick. Jeez. Not wireless connects. Stupid. Şey, bağlantı kesilmiş. Ha, şimdi oldu galiba. Bunu
Şu an cable.
diyeceğim değil mi? Yoksa çalışıyor şimdi.
Şu an çalışıyor zaten. Şu an
Okay.
internet var.
Oh, I think the...
Şu an internet var. Karşıyı görebiliyoruz. Bunların sesi neden kısıldı?
Ama
Siz mi kıstınız?
ses gitti, evet. Okay. Neyse ben yazacağım şimdi çünkü bunu görecekler.
Portfolio project, talk, explain. Yeah.
Hı.
Your project. Also detail.
Her şey oluyor şey. Ha, tekrar söyleyebilir misiniz? Şimdi mikrofon çalışıyormuş.
Okay.
Aynen öyle. Niye çıkmıyor ya? Ama televizyon gibi bir sıkıntı olmuş.
Konuşuyor ama ses gelmiyor. Boşuna konuşuyor.
Ne ya? Ses gelmiyor ya.
Yazarak bakıyorum aslında.
Evet.
İşte nerede? Şu.
Aslında şey kayıt alıyoruz o yüzden yani daha sonra biz gönderebiliriz. Ama yeni de yani çözerirsek daha iyi olur.
Onlardan ses gelmiyor ya.
Onlardan mı ses gelmiyor? Başka bir bilgisayar kullanarak katılıyor muyuz şimdi? Yani ses oraya geliyor mu diye sorabilir misin?
Size bir şey sorsam ben.
Ha, tabii.
Olcan Bey'le biz direkt irtibat haline...
Tabii ha, aynen.
Hem rahat olur. Mesela
Ha,
ülkedeki yaşam olur.
aynen.
Aynı şeyleri de...
Evet,
Bu biraz daha
yapabiliriz.
kısıtlı olduğu için.
Tabii.
Daha rahat konuşuruz hani yazışarak.
Aynen, evet,
Daha iyi
yapabiliriz.
olur.
Ha.
Bize
Tabii.
bir şey verirseniz.
O şey bizim öğrencimiz zaten aslında. Hı.
Sahiplendiniz.
Hem aklımıza şu an gelmez, daha sonra gelir yine ona sorarız. Hani böyle daha rahat olur.
Olcan, can you hear me by the way? Can you put your right hand up if you can hear me? Olcan?
Please write.
made or something produced rather than it being a generative tool.
Yeah, in the program, it's very important to feel the, textures and also feel the emotions of different materials. That's why architecture workshop is very important in this program.
And going on to that, one thing I guess we've not talked about is the facilities within the architecture department. I also run the architecture workshop, and so I've got a lot of knowledge about that. And so in terms of that, we have a large amount of woodworking equipment, but we also improve our equipment every year. So we have large format CNC routers. In the workshop, we have 3 different types of 3D printing, as well as 3D scanning and 3 laser cutters. In the print room, we have one of the fastest printing machines that you can get in terms of sort of what HP offer. The Bartlett is the only other university that has one. Marcello in the print room also has, I think, 7 or 8 3D printers. So what we try to do is get as much of the work out of the computer as we can, so that you actually have something kind of physical that you can see, you can touch, you can assess its surface, you can see what it does. And also the one thing you can't really do in the computer is shine a light on it very easily and investigate it. So as a university as a whole, we have an emphasis on the physical, on the making, and that is apparent in the undergrad. And then also with the MArch is one of the strongest physical units that we have in terms of the one-year masters. A lot of the other year masters are sort of design theory based, whereas as you can see on the Andrew Holmes studio that we're just showing here, this is sort of, if we have a look at last year's work, everything is done, every image you see is done by the student, including the image taken itself. So all these photos, these are taken by students. And then also at the end, we have films which the students have made themselves, shot themselves, edited themselves, and also added sound if necessary. And a lot of the objects within Unisys is filmed at different locations. And then with Carla's, it was all objects that were made. And then with Daniel's, it was very much kind of a trailer. So this is what our emphasis is on, is trying to produce a new way of designing architecture rather than staying within the conventions of plan, section, elevation, and something which might be seen as traditional, but also maybe slightly outdated in terms of what we can do digitally and physically now. Is we try to get the students to understand architecture in the 4th dimension, i.e. time. So that is where the films come in, because we experience architecture through time, either by the sun rising or the sun setting, or moving through spaces. And whereas plans and sections and renders are static, you cannot enter them, whereas the architecture that we try to develop and design allows the viewer of your architecture to get a sense of the environment, and as Shan says, is the atmosphere. Because the Peter work on atmospheres is very good, and it is what we respond to emotively and psychologically. And so in terms of the course, it is a very intellectual course, even though you may look at some of the drawings and see them as very simplistic. These are drawings which are sort of based in an arts practice, and these are descriptive drawings of someone describing something to someone who is ultimately blind of that object. And then those drawings are then developed into objects for the body, and then those body objects then start to become, in this brief, were spires or other, let's close that, or other elements of an architecture in terms of architectural objects, and these architectural objects then become a part of your architecture. So what we try to do is give the students an understanding of what architecture is, rather than architecture being a building. Architecture is something that we can experience and touch and respond to, and be within the realm of our own emotions and psycho kind of geography in that way. That's kind of a much deeper conversation than what some people might prefer. But this is kind of the basis of what we do in terms of our course, which is why we do the things that we do. Hopefully that was heard. Yeah, otherwise I've been talking. But,
Well, John, by the way, what are your plans for after you finish your program at Oxford Brookes? Are you
Actually, after I graduate from Brookes, I want to apply some architectural companies in Oxford or London.
anlatabilir misiniz?
Approximately 5 miles. I have a right to work and live here. And then,
Could you say it in
Sorry.
Turkish if you don't mind?
nothing in Turkish.
Turkish.
Baştan.
İngiltere yaklaşık 4 ay, 5 ay çalışma ve yaşam izni veriyor İngiltere'de. İngiltere'deki şirketlere, Foster'a ve aklımda Foster var aslında. Çalışmak için başvuru yapmayı düşünüyorum. Mezuniyet yaklaştıktan sonra. Sonrasında çevirinin kursiyeri olduğum için İngiltere'de kalamıyorum. Benim en az 2 yıl boyunca Türkiye'ye dönüp orada çalışmamı öngörüyor program. Bu nedenle de İngiltere'den tekrar Türkiye'ye döneceğim. Planlarım bu şekilde.
And sort of following on from what Shan said, or at least a bit you said in English, a lot of our students from last year have already got employment very quickly, either in Oxford or in London. So we seem to be able to produce students' portfolios that are interesting and intriguing to employers. And then other previous students have gone on to set up their own companies. Another student is working for a sheikh, designing his own top floor penthouse, along with very expensive curtains and tables. So the course, it broadens your horizon as a designer, or one of how you can design and the breadth of which you can design. We've also had previous students who have said to Andrew, the course leader, that he got a commission in India to build a restaurant. So he proposed a floating restaurant, and the client loved it, and it was built. And he has said that he only had the confidence to do that because this course gave him the belief that it is possible. If you have that conviction and that method of design and that methodology, that you are able to do what you might think is extraordinary on paper, you are actually able to make that, which is also part of the way we work within this unit, is that we work with things which are scalable, which are reproducible in terms of an architectural element. I don't know if there's a lag or something.
Sorry.
Time lag. It seems to be quite direct.
We have one more question for you guys. So students that are applying, like, do they have to have necessarily like a very high GPA, or is it just a mixture of, you know, their portfolio and also their personal statement that are considered when making admissions decisions?
What's GPA? Is that gross point average or something?
Yeah. Well,
It's okay.
Christina can step in
I
as well.
used to do the admissions, so it's okay. So yeah, the GPA, we typically look for at least 3 because architecture is one of our top programs. It depends on the university where you do your bachelor's degree, but yeah, we would look for about a 3 GPA as an overall score from your bachelor's in architecture. So that would meet the entry requirement, the academic entry requirement. But obviously the portfolio is really essential as well to get an admission onto the program.
So if someone had a really good portfolio, not necessarily 3, they still have a chance
We could
to.
be flexible if their portfolio is really strong. I mean, we look at the whole picture. We look at the personal statement. We look at IELTS. We look at academic standing.
The prestige
and
of the school they're graduating
Exactly.
from as well.
Exactly. So which university you graduated from in Turkey is also, you know, a decisive factor for us as well. So we look at the whole thing. It's not just your GPA and then we make a decision. So it is like an overall thing.
Yeah, to just follow on from that with the portfolio, to the bits that sort of I'm sort of more closely involved with, is what we really look for is potential. We look for students who might seem sort of weak to other people, but we look for someone who has something of themselves, as we said, but also someone who we think we can make into an extraordinary designer or an architect. So don't sort of feel that you have to have the perfect portfolio or the perfect work. It's trying to show what you can do and what you're interested in as well. And then as Christina said, it's very much bits that make up the whole. Obviously there are the more statistical based ones, but then also the visual based and the design based ones are given appropriate kind of viewing in that sense. I think what they must be doing is muting and then asking for questions.
Yeah, most probably. We don't hear them.
No.
Right, so I will unmute everybody, I guess, and then if you guys have questions, you can ask them directly. Maybe it's easier than, I think everybody is self-muted. Yeah.
I don't know. Does anyone here have any more questions or anything?
Bir soru varsa direkt sorabilirsiniz. Ben şimdi mikrofon açtırıyorum. Yani yazmaktan belki daha kolay olabilir.
What does that one say?
I asked, the minimum score
It's 6.
should be.
How? What
And
did you say? Oh.
Sorry, there was a question about language. Obviously, there is a minimum requirement in terms of IELTS, which goes back to the sort of ingredients for your application. But on our course, we are thoroughly international. We have students from Japan, we have students from China, we have students from Malaysia, we have students from Brazil, as well as students from sort of European countries that all have different ranges of language and also comprehension. So we have a lot of experience with students whose English might not even be their second or third language. So what we try to develop is a method of communication, and everyone is an individual, and some students are louder than others, or some are more quiet, or some are more able to communicate. But what we try to do through the course is use the design process as a way of communicating. We also draw, we do things, we can communicate in other ways. A few years ago we had a Chinese student whose comprehension was fairly low, but by the end of the course he was able to produce an extraordinary film which communicated all of his ideas, and that's all he did. He just presented his film and then finished that with a thank you, and he passed with kind of flying colours because the work spoke for itself.
Yeah, and just to add to that as well, we do offer in-sessional English language support to students at the university. So that's free support that we offer at the International Centre. So if you needed any support with your English language skills, then you can come and speak to us, and we can provide that to you.
There's also
there's a huge amount of English language schools and other courses which you're able to attend, because, as we said, it is a hugely cultural city in terms of its diversity. So that all those sort of kind of legitimate worries are catered for.
Yeah.
There's also, by the way, if their English needs a lot of work, there's processional English courses they can attend.
Yeah, so we run the
you can talk
University
about-
English program, which you can do a 6-week program or 12-week program. It depends on your level of IELTS when you take the test, but then we can get your level up after 1 semester to meet the master's degree requirement for that. So you can do that 3 times a year, the program starts. Yeah.
I think. All right. Well, if anybody else has any more questions, you can ask now. If not, we will go ahead and bring it to a close. We've recorded the session, so we can send it to you guys afterwards, and
So you can watch it all again.
you can watch it all again. And if you have any questions, you can always write directly to us from the email that we contacted you by, or from WhatsApp as well. So.
Yeah, and I'm sure Shannon and myself, we're both happy to answer questions as well. So I'm sure Christina can be the kind of conduit for that. So I'd imagine there's lots of other questions which might come up.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, so anybody can email me directly. I'll contact you all over the next few days. And obviously, Brenton and Ali here at Alternative can answer any questions that you might have. So yeah, I just want to say thanks to everybody, and thanks to Joel and Olchan for joining the webinar today.
Can I just write your email address, by the way?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, you can put my email address on. That's fine to everybody. Yeah. Okay. So thanks everyone. I really appreciate your time, and yeah, it's been really nice having everyone here together. I think we've learned a lot.
I think it's been very useful. Hopefully, it's been useful for students there. And I think especially probably most useful is having Shanna here to one translate, also actually to give you a real feeling of the course.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks everybody. I'm going to end it now. So have a nice evening and goodbye. Thank you very much.
Thank you for organising, Christina.
Okay. Thanks for joining. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye. Bye-bye.